Hello everyone and welcome to the Daily HUD where we bring you the latest and greatest in esports news. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Dom. We have got a lot to cover.
Lots of coverage today. We have the NBA Pro League, 2K Pro League starting today or continuing on.
Yes.
We also start with Madden. We will be doing some ESL Pro League and then a little bit of Fortnite news coming your way.
Yeah, we've also got the Rainbow Six Pro League, Siege Pro League, which returns today. As you said, we've got Fortnite in terms of our gaming news. In addition to that, we're taking a look at Mortal Kombat and doing some more post-mortem. Sure. It's still alive, but there's still a lot of controversy about that game. We're also taking a look at Overwatch, the new Workshop update that's been coming out, alongside with an announcement for Persona 5 Royal, which was just announced, along with some news from Nintendo about potentially a new Nintendo Switch console. So with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with some of that esports coverage, because the NBA 2K League returns with day 2 of week 3 later today.
The Mavs are coming in first place, winning against the Lakers.
Yes.
Lakers unfortunately dropped to both the Mavs and Heat Check Gaming, who were gaining some momentum at 2-1 before this, and now they are at the bottom of the standings, along with my home team, kind of ish. Timberwolves. I was born in Minnesota, so I'm rooting for them, but they are also dropping to the bottom games against Raptor Uprising and Magic Gaming, keeping them in a low standing. So I guess it's a fight for the bottom between you and
now
me.
Magic Gaming, they also managed to win both of their games against the Knicks and the Timberwolves, bringing them up from 0-2 to 2-2. So they are starting to climb up a little bit in the points. Again, those were yesterday's games. At today, we've got the Mavs back against Heat Check, and they're still undefeated. Now, Heat Check are 3-1, but it does look like our marquee matchup, 4-0 team against a 3-0 team. After that, we've got the Celtics versus the 76ers, Knicks versus Pistons, and Raptors Uprising versus Net SGC. So again, a lot of NBA 2K League going on. I'm excited for that Mavs versus Heat Check game, because we're starting to see some teams clear the distance just a little bit ahead of those other teams. Mavs, they've had some pretty easy games against weaker teams in the standings. I think Heat Check is going to be a first real test for them against another top competitive team to see if they can continue their momentum, or if Heat Check will actually win a game and bring them both to 4-1 in the standings.
Well, I'd love to root for that home team, but if esports basketball isn't quite your thing, we've got Madden starting today, and you can watch that live on twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv, I want to say it's /EA Madden NFL, which was, something tells me they couldn't just get the Madden tag or the NFL tag. Somebody managed to get that name first. Again, $200,000 prize pool. Top 16 players in Madden esports are competing in today's event. It's going to be running over the next 3 days. It is Thursday with the grand finals happening on Saturday. And this is the pinnacle of Madden esports. Top 16 players from all around the world, or I guess the Americas in the NFL, where people actually play this game, are going to be competing in this tournament. We just saw our last 2 qualifiers determined earlier this week at the last chance qualifiers, so we're all going to be keeping our eyes on that as well, because that also looks to be a very large prize pool. I believe first place walks home with, I want to say, 125 of that $200,000, which is pretty
not bad, and you don't even have to break your collarbone for that one.
Yeah, exactly. There's much less risk of personal injury playing Madden online. Well, then again, can like emotional state damage if you end up getting tilted or upset and you're just really salty and you're not having a great time.
Tune in for the next quick fix, and I'll give you some advice on how to keep those thumbs mobile for your Madden gaming.
Absolutely can. After that, we've also got to take a look at the ESL Pro League, which also resumes with more of Group D. We've got some results from yesterday. Let's go ahead and take a look.
The ESL Pro League continues today with Group D.
Yes. Yesterday we saw Isurus versus Daytona. Both of these teams had their wins already. It ended up being a 1-2 in favor of Daytona, and of the 2 winners, they now find themselves at 2-0 in the standings. Isurus at 1-1. After that, we had our battle of the losers. Infinity and Denial went against each other, both at 0-1 in the standings. Ultimately, Infinity took the series at 2-1, climbing themselves up to 1-1 in the standings and keeping Denial at the bottom at 0-2. Now, looking towards today's games, we've got Isurus versus Infinity, with both of these teams at 1-1. And afterwards, we've got Daytona versus Denial, with Daytona at 2-0 and Denial at 0-2.
Continuing on with our ESL Pro League news, we have the European leagues battling at it. But first, let's go over. We have Australis versus Hellraisers, 2-0, putting Australis at a 2-0 in the standings.
Yeah, now Australis have gone 16-6. They were 16-7. I know, the names are kind of tough sometimes. They went 16-4 before that and 16-7 in their most recent games. The reason that we're quoting these numbers at you is to quell all of the doubts. This team, they struggled in Blast Pro Miami, and now they've come into the ESL Pro League, and they are smashing their competition.
Big 2-0 versus EX3D. Today, Hellraisers versus EX3D Max. The Hellraisers are at 1-1, and EX3D is at a 2-0. The
0-2, yeah. Now, Australis is also challenging Big later on today, with Australis again at 2-0 in the standings. Big are at 1-1. So, long story short, we've got some close-ish games if we can consider the fact that Australis is close to Big in terms of like 2-0 versus 1-1 in terms of standings, but when we actually consider the skill level for these teams, we're not quite so sure it's actually going to be close for Australis. Again, fingers are crossed for teams to try and take some maps off of them, but Australis are looking nigh unstoppable.
16-2, 16-3.
Yeah, 16-4, 16-6, 16-7. This team has been on an absolute roll right now, and that's definitely the team that you need to be watching for the ESL Pro League. Of course, if you are more interested in some other shooty games like the Rainbow Six Pro League, we've got you covered because the EU League also returns later today with some more Rainbow Six Siege action.
Okay, Dom, well, actually, the Rainbow Six Pro League begins tomorrow.
Yes. Look, I'm just excited for Avengers today. So today is tomorrow, and tomorrow is... it's all one big end game blur. But again, those games are tomorrow, to clarify.
Tomorrow, and this is the last of the last before we have our next competitions happening later on in May. Some of the teams going against each other tomorrow will be Penta Esports versus the Stream Esports. We've got Team Secret versus Chaos, Navi versus G2, Mouse versus Team Empire. And tell me a little bit about Empire and this the Stream Esports.
Yeah, so this specific week of Rainbow Six Pro League doesn't actually matter too much to the standings. Yeah, because as you said, Empire and Lestream are already in first and second by a pretty wide margin. Even if they lose today's games completely not blown out of the water, they have already guaranteed their tickets to the Rainbow Six finals in Milan. So we already had this discussion a little bit with North America, I want to say last Friday before Monday's games, where do you have incentive to show new things, or just use this opportunity to practice old strategies, or even better, just let your players relax and go play for funsies? So it will be a little bit exciting to see how those teams play out over the course of the 4 games happening tomorrow, but ultimately this isn't a huge opportunity for other teams to scout out new strategies, because we're not expecting a huge amount. I mean, what would you do if you had already locked in your tickets and you had one more series of games to play? Do you just send them out to have fun?
I hope that Team Empire and Team Listream stay on top of their game and stay practicing, because, you know, just because you've already booked your tickets, you already have your flights, don't let that get to your head.
Absolutely.
Stay focused on the game.
Yeah, discipline is a really important thing to maintain in these competitive leagues. It's not just winning that gets you to the finals, it's consistently winning. If you win a couple of one-offs, that's one thing, but if you win every single game, that's something else entirely.
That's going to get you that $62,000.
Yeah, and of course, now speaking of winning, we've got to talk about Fortnite, because right now Epic Games is winning over our hearts and minds with the Avengers Endgame crossover that dropped earlier this morning, the limited time game mode that they've been teasing up to today. We've been speculating, is it going to be skins, or is it going to be a game mode? Are they, new weapons? Well, it turns out it is a new limited time game mode that's dropping in the game, in which you can play as either Chitauri or as a standard Fortnite character, good versus evil, in what looks to be a 20 versus 20 style combat. what makes this all the more exciting is the regular Fortnite characters can run around the map and pick up the Avengers weapons. Thor's Stormbreaker hammer, Iron Man's photon blasters, you've got Hawkeye's bow and arrow, and Captain America's shield. And the thing is, these items aren't unique. You can get Captain America's shield, and I can get Captain America's shield. And then you're not limited to just one. You can get the shield, the hammer, the bow, and the photon blasters.
Unless you are the specific character. And then you can't pick up those.
You can get anything.
Oh, wow.
The only caveat to that is if you are the Chitauri on the other side. If you are the enemies, you want to kill the Avengers, or I suppose the last defenders, whoever we're calling these the good guys. And you have a certain number of respawns when you first start on the map. So anytime you are a Chitauri, if you die, you will respawn because Thanos is coming. Once you pick up the Infinity Gauntlet as Chitauri, you turn into Thanos and you get the chance to fight back. And you need to go around the map and collect all of the different Infinity Stones to finally disable the Avengers, the remaining Fortnite heroes, and shut them down. Whereas if you're the heroes, you need to kill the Chitauri, you need to kill Thanos and stop him from collecting all of these stones and all of this gear. And it really becomes this very interesting race. We've already seen some very, very interesting plays around, and we've got some footage that we can show you as well. Honestly, this game mode, I kind of wish it were a permanent game mode, just because of how unique a twist it is on the regular gameplay style. It's still Battle Royale, the map still gets smaller and smaller, but it is so much fun to fly around with Iron Man's thrusters, just like he did in the original Iron Man 1, and try to keep your balance while you're running away from Chitauri who are shooting you down across the map.
For somebody who gets slaughtered like me, you know I really like that respawn ability.
yeah. And again, it's not like unlimited respawns until the end of the game. If you are the Avengers, if you are the Avengers and the good guy, you continually respawn until Thanos gets all of the Infinity Stones. Once he gets that, you no longer respawn. So you're out and then you're out. If you're Chitauri, you have just a flat number. I think you have something like 100 or so for your team. So it really is a race for the Avengers to stop Thanos before he restores balance to the universe. But hey, it's a super fun game mode. Absolutely recommend you play it now. Even if you aren't a fan of Fortnite in general and the game doesn't do it for you, this new LTM is a very unique twist on the game genre that is very compelling and is definitely worth a download and play, at least for the weekend. Yeah, and in other news, we've also got some more Mortal Kombat post-mortem discussion, because I do know how to pronounce post-mortem. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with Mortal Kombat right now, because we did talk a little bit about how it is struggling yesterday, so let's get into it.
Okay, in Mortal Kombat news, we hope some of you viewers out there have been able to play. If not, perhaps you have been keeping up on the controversy recently put out on Reddit? Let me know what you found out. What happened, Don?
Well, somebody did all the math that in order to unlock all the skins and all of the equipment in the game, you'd have to spend about $6,440 in total, plus the initial cost
of
buying the game, for a grand total of $6,500 plus tax.
Ouch.
And a lot of people are really unhappy about that number, and it immediately exploded, and people were very, very unhappy with that.
Ed Boon responded, because my pockets aren't that deep. The co-creator of Mortal Kombat took to Twitter to say that was a bunk and that the vast, vast majority of skins are not for sale and they need to be unlocked. And how would I unlock these skins?
Well, that's the thing. Unlocking the skins and the equipment and the content is at the end of the towers, which is after the initial 4 or so hour campaign, and that's where it comes back to those microtransactions incentivizing you to spend money to close the skill gap between those excessively difficult towers. Now, people are still really unhappy because Ed Boon is saying that the content is in the game and is accessible. Players are saying that, yes, just because it is accessible doesn't mean that we are capable of accessing it because of the grind required, which again encourages microtransactions, which doesn't solve the initial problem.
Time is money.
Exactly. Now, there are rumors that this drop rate could be tweaked a little bit, that we could see more rares and blues actually drop to make that grind a little bit easier, but it still comes back to the game framework and progression of a AAA fighting game is similar to that of a mobile game. User on Reddit gave us a very good comparison. For $7 of the equivalent in-game currency, you can get a character intro. In Super Smash, you can purchase Joker, his intros, his outros, his colors, his skins, his stage, and all of his corresponding music for far less than that. And that's from Fresh on Reddit. We've got a link to his comment down in the description below. it comes down to the estimated value that players are getting of the post-game content, and the incentivization of NetherRealm Studios seems to be, we want to get as much money as possible out of players through these microtransactions. And we're doing that by gating content behind very, very difficult grinds and very, very lucky drops. Or you can buy loot boxes to advance you to those drops.
It seems if they were so interested in gaining access to a market, they would have made a version of this game to access Japan.
Yes, well, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, trying to get themselves into
maybe
an
they're
uncensored
making up for
version.
that by adding these new purchases that we have to make. I don't know.
It's entirely conceivable. I imagine there's going to be an uncensored version eventually, or maybe they've just waited to delay. Maybe it's still cooking in the oven a little bit, but the current game is still being critically reviewed well. It's getting an 83 on Metacritic. IGN gave it a 90. We're getting similar scores from other very credible publications. However, users are giving it a 2.8 on Metacritic, whereas
down
yesterday
from a 3.1.
Yeah, yesterday was a 3.1, so it is trending downward, and it's getting us into a dangerous discussion of just because you make a game and it is good does not mean it will be a game that players want to play, because of the format in which you present the content of the game. By hiding it behind those towers, by hiding those skins and unlockables behind either a very, very high grind or a paywall with microtransactions, it disincentivizes people to stay and play, which ultimately is what fighting games want. You want to have people stay around for years and years and years and years and years and years, so that they can continue to talk and play your product and then spend money on microtransactions at their own leisure.
Right. Not necessarily forced to do so to get ahead into it.
So Mortal Kombat, it's still kicking up a lot of dust right now.
Yeah.
There have been rumors that we are going to see that drop rate tweaked so that instead of being as difficult a grind, it becomes a little bit easier to get here and close the difficulty gap in between the players and those super difficult towers. But until we actually see it, the game as is isn't quite kicking it for a lot of folks. However, it's still on track to play at EVO. It's still on track to be one of the biggest selling fighting games of the current generation. We're just wondering about its longevity if it continues to effectively hamstring itself.
Yeah, can it compare against our good friends over at Nintendo? They've just celebrated their 30th anniversary.
For the Game Boy, yeah.
For the Game Boy.
But their competition in terms of fighting games is Super Smash Ultimate. We talked about it a little bit with Joker having just come out earlier this week. Super Smash Ultimate is projected. It's really tough to really break down the financial report Nintendo just put out. Long story short, Super Smash Ultimate is currently, or is very shortly on track to be, the best-selling fighting game of all time.
Wow.
Period. Which is awesome because you get to see people punch Kirby and Yoshi and Link and all that good stuff fighting against each other, and I definitely enjoyed the game. Like we said, for less money than getting a Mortal Kombat intro, you get a full character, the skins, the colors, the stages, the music, and all that sort of thing. So already that's looking really good. We also have to talk about Nintendo announcing that they will not announce a new Switch console at E3 in June.
Why is that?
We're not quite sure. So there have been rumors floating around since November of last year saying that there is going to be a new Switch coming out in June of 2019, which happens to be the time of E3, which is generally very good. This new Switch is rumored to have better specs, maybe a better screen, maybe a better battery life. Nobody has concrete information that we can verifiably point to and say that this is a source. However, it's been talked about by enough people that we're starting to think it's legitimate. Well, Nintendo took to the news this morning and said, hey, we have no plans to announce any new Nintendo Switch console at E3. They didn't say anything about outside of E3, or after E3, or before E3. They just said we have no plans to announce anything at E3. So again, the rumors have been starting to build up once again, and they're starting to turn towards a less expensive version of the Switch potentially coming out. It's already retailing for about $300 at this time. A less expensive version, we perhaps could see the current console either scaled down a little bit, or maybe even just the current console resold for less money, because there are also discussions about a slightly upgraded Switch coming out. We're not talking about like an Xbox One X where the Switch is at 4K capacity, we're talking about small micro upgrades, like a slightly bigger screen or slightly better battery, that sort of thing. Again, we're still waiting to hear more from Nintendo on what that's going to be, and they've already got Smash Ultimate. They've got so many excellent games coming out, exclusives. New Zelda Link's Awakening is being remade in high def on the Switch. We've got so much awesome stuff coming out for that console.
Dom is a huge fan of the Switch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you can't,
I'm
if you don't
a huge
get
fan of just about everything.
So moving on to the Overwatch League, we covered a little bit of that in our quick fix.
Yeah, it's
brand new, big news for the Overwatch League.
For Overwatch in general, and I think for fans of games in general. Yesterday, we had a surprise developer update from Jeff Kaplan. We've been giving him a lot of flack here on the Esports channel because we haven't been getting a huge amount of developer updates and insight into what's going on in Overwatch. Why are we constantly seeing the GOAT meta? How come we're not getting the patch turnover as much as we want? Well, it turns out they've been sitting on one doozy of an announcement. The Overwatch Workshop was announced yesterday afternoon and is set to release sometime in the near future. I believe it's already on the PTR, in which they are releasing a scripting interface into the Overwatch game so that you and I and you can create your own custom game mode. What this effectively does is it gives you access to all of the numbers behind the game. If you don't like how much damage McCree is doing, you can enter your own script editor and just scale him down so he's a little bit weaker. If you think Pharah should have unlimited flight, you could just give her unlimited fuel in your own game mode. And again, it depends on the people who are playing in your game, but this is super big news because this script editor is something that hardcore gamers have been very, very familiar with for a long time, especially on PC. It allows you to modify and change things and create custom servers and create your own communities based around those custom servers in really big ways, and also encourages game developers to get their feet wet in a AAA product. If you want to try building a new hero and you've been posting on the Overwatch League forums about that, you now have the tools to do so by going into the script editor and modifying any existing hero. It's really cool. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff going on. The only downside, maybe it's a downside, maybe it's an upside, is that you cannot import outside assets, which basically means if you want to make a new hero, you have to use one that's currently in the game and modify it in such a way that it acts differently. You can't create a new model or animation or art or music or anything and bring it into the game. However, it still looks to be a very, very powerful tool. We're going to be playing with it a whole bunch. Already we've seen some really, really cool game modes. The floor is lava, for one. It looks to be so exciting. I believe they're calling it Molten Floor instead of Molten Core, based on Torbjorn's Ultimate. It's very, very exciting and compelling for what is going to be happening towards game developers and super hardcore power users over the course of Overwatch's lifespan. And if eventually they do allow you to import external assets, this could become a whole new Gary's Mod. This could become a whole new source engine. This could change the way people play Overwatch in a really, really big way. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Let us know your game modes in the comments below. Okay, moving on, we've got a last bit of news available for you. Is it Persona 5 or Persona 5?
Persona 5, maybe
Persona
it's
5 Royal.
Take, yeah. Persona 5 Royal has been announced as of yesterday evening, an expanded version of the original Persona 5 game.
It will be revealed. The release date is set for October 31st in Japan, and the Western release date will be sometime later in 2020. This new version of the game brings a lot of new content, new challenges, and a new character.
Yes, a lot of fans are kind of unhappy about it. A new female character, you get the chance to join the Phantom Thieves and play with this character, but fans are a little disappointed that she is not a main protagonist, that you don't get the chance to play as her specifically in this new, I suppose, edition.
Realm Arena.
Yeah. Again, this is an expanded version of the original Persona 5. So, to the best of our knowledge, it appears to include the base game of Persona 5 and this new edition as well. So if you haven't had the chance to play the game yet, it looks to bring a whole bunch of new stuff. If you already have Persona 5 and have played it to its 80/120 hour conclusion, this looks to add more content and keep you stuck in that world even longer, which looks to be pretty exciting. It's been on my to-play list for quite some time, and with rumors of the Switch release starting to come out soon, maybe that's a chance to play the game portably as well. And then we'll get the chance for Persona 5 Royal Switch version, which is also I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Good little marriage there.
Exactly. That's it for our Daily HUD for today.
Yes, I'm Sierra. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah.
Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Let us know what you think of the show in the comments below.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody here at the Esports channel.
Yeah, and again, if you have any highlights or bloopers,
This is
send
Dom.
them to us. Yeah, I'm Dom. Send them to us down in the description below. We're also streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/esports_channel, where we're probably just going to be playing that new Avengers game mode.
Yes.
Like a lot. It's super awesome. But hey,
Respawn.
that's it for us. On behalf of myself and everyone here at the Esports channel, thank you so much for watching. Good night. GG.
GG.